make of it what you will, but today was day 911 of the Trump administration, and the president's own storyline of racism and nativism followed him into the weekend after a solid week at the top of this and other broadcasts. Remember, it was just yesterday, after all, the president said he was not happy with the "send her back" chant that welled up at his rally in North Carolina this past week, aimed at Congresswoman Omar of Minnesota. President said he disagreed with it, said he started talking quickly after the chant started up because he didn't like hearing it. While the clock showed, he let 13 seconds go by while it reached a crescendo. Then by today, he had reconsidered his opinion of the crowd.
President Trump, you said you were unhappy with the chant. However, the chant was just repeating what you said in your tweet. Do you take that tweet back?
You know what I'm unhappy with? I'm unhappy with the fact that a congresswoman can hate our country. I'm unhappy with the fact that a congresswoman can say anti-Semitic things. I'm unhappy with the fact that a congresswoman, in this case, a different congresswoman, can call our country and our people garbage. That's what I'm unhappy with.
You're not unhappy
Those
about
people
the
in
chant.
North Carolina, that stadium was packed. It was a record crowd, and I could have filled it 10 times, as you know. Those are incredible people. Those are incredible patriots.
The Oval Office today with the two surviving Apollo 11 astronauts looking on uncomfortably. Maggie Haberman of the New York Times pointed out today, quote, "Not a whole lot has been learned on this front since 2016. The president has a history of backtracking over massive controversy he creates. He then sees coverage about retreating and gets mad and reinforces the original controversy." It's only been 5 days since President Trump said 4 Democratic congresswomen should go back and fix the places they originally came from. From there, it was off to a whirlwind of a week of rhetoric, excessive even for this president.
And all I'm saying that if they're not happy here, they can leave. They can leave. And you know what? I'm sure that there'll be many people that won't miss them. It's up to them. Go wherever they want, or they can stay. But they should love our country. They shouldn't hate our country.
Omar has a history of launching vicious anti-Semitic screeds.
When your supporters last night were chanting "send her back," why didn't you stop them? Why didn't you ask them to stop saying that?
Well, number one, I think I did. I started speaking very quickly. It really was a loud. I disagree with it, by the way, but it was quite a chant, and I felt a little bit badly about it. But I will say this: I did, and I started speaking very quickly. But it started up rather fast, as you probably noticed. Say it.
The chant "send her home."
No, you know what's racist to me? When somebody goes out and says the horrible things about our country, the people of our country, that are anti-Semitic, that hate everybody, that speak with scorn and hate, that, to me, is really a very dangerous thing.
Most Republicans stood by the president this week after he created this firestorm over his remarks. On Tuesday, only 4 Republicans and 1 independent, Justin Amash of Michigan, joined the Democrats, crossing over to vote for a resolution to condemn the president's original comments. David Graham of The Atlantic noted today it's been 1 month since President Trump officially announced his re-election campaign. He writes, quote, "If the past month has shown anything, it's that Trump, instead of campaigning on his administration's signature accomplishments, cutting regulation, appointing conservative judges, presiding over steady economic growth, seems intent on reprising his 2016 run, a campaign largely built on fear, resentment, and division." At this point, let's bring in our leadoff guest for our discussion on a Friday night, Susan Page, Washington bureau chief for USA Today, Philip Elliott, politics correspondent for Time Magazine, and David Maraniss, Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter, presidential biographer, veteran of The Washington Post. Good evening and welcome to all of you. Susan, here we are as Americans, some of us amazed all over again this week, though you see this week as having crossed a very distinct line. How so?
Well, you know, of course, President Trump has been provocative from the first time he announced that he planned to run for president. So that's not new. But I do think the use of the chant, "Send her back," and his comments that these members of Congress, 3 of them native born, the 4th a naturalized citizen, should go back to where they originally came from. It's a racist trope. It's a familiar phrase from in American history. And to have a president of the United States use such a clearly racist appeal is something we've never seen in modern times. And he added to that today, by the way, by saying it was unacceptable for these members of Congress to criticize the United States, at least while he was president, that shouldn't be allowed. And of course, both of these, acceptance of immigration, acceptance of immigrants as part of our nation, and our belief in free speech and ability to criticize our leaders, these are fundamental American principles.
Yeah, I don't know much, but I know the ability, the right to criticize our government was right up there among the framers' first tenets. David Maraniss, I want to try to do your writing justice here. You wrote a very personal piece about this for the Washington Post. It reads in part, "The spectacle of men and women at President Trump's rally in North Carolina on Wednesday chanting 'Send her back' depressed me so much I could only watch for 10 seconds before turning the channel to a baseball game for mental relief. To see the president intentionally provoke hateful cheers against Ilhan Omar, a Somali refugee, U.S. citizen, elected member of Congress, was a reminder to me that America has been through this too many times in too many ways." David, expand on your thoughts.
Well, I've spent most of my career sort of writing about what it means to be an American and all of these hateful ways of turning on people who are just dissenting from the powers that be. And, you know, I was so depressed this week. It was such a hideous performance. And for him there to call them incredible patriots made me think about who a real patriot is. And just last week, I attended a funeral at Arlington National Cemetery of Brigadier General Jim Shelton, who had fought in Vietnam, who had spent his entire career in the Army, proud of an institution that was perhaps the most integrated of all American institutions. And at that beautiful funeral in Arlington, one of his sons, an Army colonel, told a story of the family on a vacation when they were kids. There were 8 kids in Big Jim Shelton's family. They stopped at a service station. Jim went in and came out in a rage, and all the kids were afraid that he was mad at them. And it turned out that there was racist language written all over the bathroom walls. And General Shelton marched into the service station, got the attendant, told him to get a bucket, some rags, and water, and go in there and wipe off the N-word from that wall. And his son said it was a lesson for all of us kids. And I think that's a lesson for all of America. And it's what I want to talk about, as, the pseudo-patriots at that rally versus a real patriot, Jim Shelton.
Phil, is it possible that equally perversely the Democrats have received, because we're living in a political world, we have to ask this, a kind of political boost from this?
Oh, entirely. Remember, when the Democrats woke up on Sunday morning, they were party divided. The so-called squad had been slighted by Speaker Nancy Pelosi in an interview she gave to the New York Times. This week could have been entirely about Democratic infighting. Instead, the president tweeted what he tweeted on Sunday morning and immediately brought the Democratic Party together. Instead of being fractured and divided over who was actually in charge, they all rallied together. They got unified. They got the back of one of their own, someone they don't necessarily, who has brought them a lot of trouble since she came here with past rhetoric, current rhetoric. And in doing so, Democrats, however briefly, have become united again and standing in opposition to President Donald Trump. There is one thing that the entire Democratic caucus agrees on, is that they have got to be a check on this president. They disagree on whether that's impeachment, whether it's censure, whether it's resolutions of disapproval, but they all agree that they have to at least have a united front on defending their own. And in this way, really, Speaker Pelosi should be sending President Trump a thank you basket of some Big Macs and Diet Coke.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.